Morning. Sorry, good afternoon. It's morning for me.
Musician, actor, author, humanitarian, environmentalist, Sting writes, "Real art thrives in conditions of limitation, demanding improvisation, innovation, and creative problem solving." For many of you in this room who, in a few weeks, will be staring down the prospect of graduating, of moving on from the university and out into the larger world, Broken Music chronicles both the trials you will face as you struggle to maintain your voices and the grace that living an artistic life can bring. On behalf of all of us at the University of Wisconsin, the Department of English, and the program in creative writing, please help me welcome Sting.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm not sure I can follow it. Maybe I should explain myself a little bit. Thank you so much. I'm actually playing here tonight. I have a concert here tonight with a small band and a much reduced production, and it's very much a sort of back to the roots idea. I'm not quite sure why I'm doing it, but speaking to students at these colleges I'm playing at, which I haven't done for 25, 30 years, is I suppose a way of reconnecting. I spend a lot of my time in the spotlight, and I don't see very much up there. I just see the light. I know people are there. It's very difficult to contact them. So in a way, you become very isolated from reality. And the more famous you are, the more successful you are, the more and more isolated you are. Witness poor Michael Jackson now, you know, whatever. Guilty or I don't know what he is. But he's a person who's isolated, deeply lonely. And I really fight against that all the time. I try and live a citizen's life. I pay tax, I have children, I vote. I try and live as normal a life as possible. And I think the reason I'm doing this, I'm talking to you today, is to try and, you know, meet people's eyes and just have a normal discussion about something. Doesn't matter whether it's a book or something else. Yesterday I gave a music class in Columbia, Missouri. And I talked about a little bit of music theory, a little bit of song structure, and just what it's like to be a musician, a working musician. And that was good. So we alternate literary classes with music classes. The reason I wrote this book is probably the wrong reason. There'd been many so-called biographies written about me by people who'd never met me. And I would have a sort of morbid curiosity about them. I'd pick them up in the bookshop and I'd look, you know, and I'd get through them, but I didn't really recognize the person they were talking about because all of the stories they gleaned from tabloid newspapers, and some of them were true. Some of them weren't true, and so I really wanted to, I felt a little embittered that there was this industry happening around me, but not really me. And I thought that they were trying to make me a much more colorful character than I am. You know, the sort of archetypal rock star who throws TVs out the windows and, you know, makes love to thousands of women and all of this. And I've had a much more ordinary life than that. And yet my inner life is much more interesting than the one they could ever know. So I wanted to really reveal my inner life because I thought that was interesting. And write not so much about fame and celebrity and having tea with Elton John and all that stuff, which is fun, but my real life is in here. So I began the book in an odd way. It didn't begin, I was born so-and-so. I began the book with an incident in 1988. I was in Brazil. I was on tour, and I had the opportunity to have an experience. I suppose you'd call it a psychedelic experience. Now, I'm not recommending that you have this experience, nor am I prescribing it. I'm just saying this happened to me, and I found it very useful. You may find it useful too, or you may find it very dangerous, or whatever. So that's my disclaimer. So it takes place in a church in the jungle, and I've read something about the potion they're going to give me, and I'm a little bit afraid. As you would be. And I think the passage will explain why I was afraid, because I was justified in my fear. The first indication that the potion is taking effect is the emergence of a high-pitched frequency inside my head, like a dog whistle, followed by an increasing numbness in my lips, and a distinct drop in my body temperature. I begin to shiver, gently at first, but with increasing intensity, standing at my feet and moving up my legs in wave after wave until my whole body is shaking violently. It is difficult to tell whether the shivering is a psychological reaction due to fear or simply that I'm cold. I'm conscious enough to know not to panic and to attempt to steady my breathing, but nausea wells in my throat and then proceeds to grip my stomach with increasing intensity until it feels like a writhing serpent inside of me trying to escape. It is all I can do to prevent myself from projectile vomiting. I grip the arms of the chair and breathe as deeply as I can. Something powerful and relentless is coursing through my entire body, through every blood vessel and artery, down the length of my arms to my toes and along the sinews of my arms. My fingers are shot with an alien energy. The foul taste that remains in my mouth seems like a physical analog of fear itself, and I realize I'm in the grip of some kind of chemical entity that is at this moment vastly more powerful than I am. The entire room seems to be gripped in the same visceral struggle. Some writhe in their seats, others have clearly capitulated, open-mouthed and corpse-like, while others seem calm and transfixed as if by beatific visions. Then, as a bizarre counterpoint to the call of the thunder, the retching begins. I'd been warned of this, but nothing can quite prepare you for the piteous sound of this woeful, violent music, the music of abject physical misery. I am barely able to control my own intestinal tract as I watch others leave their seats to scramble unceremoniously for the door. Some make it, some do not. There are buckets of sawdust on hand to cover the offending pools of bile. Please let this pass. I don't want to throw up. I don't want to be embarrassed here. Please let this pass. The maestries who are in charge of this ceremony sit impassive and stoic in the center of the room, as if this is the normal run of events. They too have partaken of the brew and in large doses, but do not seem to be succumbing to the growing nausea and discomfort in the room. Outside the nearest window, one tortured soul seems to be exorcising a relentless train of hideous demons from the bowels of his personal hell. I try stopping up my ears with my fingers and breathing deeply. I really can't take much more of this. I am no longer shivering, but the anaconda inside me is furious to leave my body. Beads of sweat begin to form on my face and chest, and my eyes roll back in my head. Did I really elect to do this? I must have been out of my mind. I've never felt this bad in my entire life, nor do I remember having been so afraid. Another peal of thunder compounds the agony. But just when I imagine I'm drained of all will to withstand this onslaught, I hear the singing. I hear the beautiful, unearthly voice of the maestri from Manaus, accompanied and floating on the moist air, filling the room with the sweet fragrance of melody. I close my eyes, the better to drink in the gentle balm of the song, and I find myself in a vast cathedral of light. The song has become light and color, the fantastical architecture of Dante and Blake, and I'm suspended from a roof of souls, a sky-arching dome of seraphic hosts. The visions are transmuting into miraculous, spiraling geometric structures, towers, tunnels, vortices, chambers. The clarity of the visions and the electricity of the colors are so alien to the experience of waking life as to be a different order of reality entirely. And yet to open one's eyes is to return to the room as it was. But these are not hallucinations. There is no distortion of visible reality. The colors and the visions are a separate reality projected onto the back of my eyelids. Closing your eyes transports you to this other world as real as any other, where sounds become light and light becomes color, and color turns into geometry, and geometry triggers memory and stories and emotions not only from your own life, but astoundingly from what seems to be the lives of others. I'm either dreaming awake or I am dead. I am in a bomber over a firestormed city at night. I'm in a longboat under a sail in a grey sea. I'm in a battle, and the thunder outside has become the roar of ordnance. I am deep underground in a filthy trench, and there is someone at my side in the corner of my vision, almost like a shadow. I shall call him the companion. There are others too. The artillery barrage shakes the ground everywhere around us. The others are little more than youths in ill-fitting battle dress and steel helmets flecked with mud, fearful and shivering in the damp tunnel. I too am afraid and shake my head in an attempt to alter the vision. Suddenly I'm in the town of my childhood in the north of England. I'm a small boy, gazing at lists of hundreds of names carved into stone, watched over by 2 soldier sentinels cast in weathered bronze, their heads lowered solemnly over the stocks of upturned rifles. My child's hand is touching a cold metallic foot. The thunder and the barrage continue, and here I am back again underground with the companion, watching as those with him line up in an anxious file beneath the lip of the trench. Someone is coughing uncontrollably. I have a sense that when the guns stop, it is the companion, just out of my line of vision, who will give the order to clamber over the parapet into danger. I can taste the fear again in my mouth, as acrid and bitter as the brown liquid I have ingested. The ordnance suddenly falls silent. Every face is turned towards the companion, but I still can't see him. A faraway whistle blows, although it may be the call of a tropical night bird deep in the jungle, and then another, closer and closer all the way down the line. The maestri is still singing, beautifully, but with an occasional atonality, a quarter tone that is darkly disturbing and otherworldly. I sense that the companion has become still and rigid like one of the bronze statues, a whistle buried deep in his hand. "Blow the fucking whistle, Sergeant," spits a furious anonymous voice, and I hear more angry shouts along the line. "Come on, Sergeant, for fuck's sake," they shout, seeming desperate to kill or be killed, and I'm struck by the thought that some of them are too afraid to be thought cowards, too afraid to step out of the lineage of brutality and cruelty that is as old as history. "Will you blow that fucking whistle?" But no one moves as the guns begin to rattle above ground, and I know they are spraying death across the wire. We hear screams of anger and agony. The companion gives no order, and no one moves from the relative safety of the trench. The maestri holds a long, suspended note, hanging like a flare in the sky as a terrifying battle rages around us. I too am angry and confused. What the hell does this have to do with me? I feel as if I'm in some kind of virtual theatre, an experiment in reality or a waking nightmare, but one that I don't seem to be able to shake off. It is clear that the figures around are in mortal danger. Their terror is palpable and hideously claustrophobic. Yet at the same time, I have the unwelcome impression that I am the cause of this and being asked to navigate the realm of my own deepest fears. I sense too that I will not be harmed, but that I'm undergoing some kind of test. My head is spinning with questions, but I'm so astounded by the clarity of these visions that I'm unable to speak and unable to exit this other reality that is not my own. But there are levels of thought below these visions that observe and comment on them, and farther levels beneath those, commenting in turn to infinity. And where normal objective thought can give comfort, allowing the mind to step outside of an imagined or real danger, here the strategy only compounds the fear that there is no bedrock to reality, that so-called objective reality is only a construct, and this realization, I suppose, is akin to madness. I'll stop there because it's a hugely long passage, longer than I thought. But this is the way I begin the book, and it's not the way a normal celebrity bio begins. So that I was born in this experience is like a death experience, and in many ways, I assume it's like a death experience. My life flashed before me in this 4 or 5 hours I was in this trance, and I really had to reassess my entire life, and it was ego-shattering, and someone like me needs their ego shattered quite a lot to get back to normality. And this story of being in this battle ends tragically, and it reminds me somehow of my mother and my mother and father's tragic love story, and then I begin to tell my tale from that. So.